2, 3.
Hi, I'm Thea from Canberra Seed Savers. I'm down at the Canberra Environment Centre in Acton, and I've got Mel behind the camera. We're both Canberra Seed Savers members of the cooperative, and today we're going to have a chat about growing seedlings from seeds. So we'll show you a little bit about potting mix, and then show you how to grow seed that is quite fine and seed that is quite large. Okay, so first up, your seed growing medium. So you can buy commercially bought seed raising mixes. That's the majority of what I use. However, for just a few dollars cheaper, you can actually make your own seed raising mix, and then that's more versatile depending on the types of seeds you want to grow and how free draining you want the soil to be. But generally, you can get some base soil of whatever quality you want, and I usually use about 2 parts soil, and then I add in a few other mediums. So often I'll soak some koi or koya, and that's actually compressed coconut fiber, and that actually helps make your seed raising mix really fluffy and light, and helps with moisture retention, which is really important for germinating seeds. So the best way I've found is to take, and I'm not going to do this today, but take an entire 9-litre brick of koi, which is just $2 or something at the shops, pop it in a big 9-10 litre bucket and fill it with warm water, warm to hot water, and that'll actually help the expansion of the koya, and that'll expand to 9 or 10 litres of koya that you can then incorporate into large amounts of seed raising mix. The other thing I often place in my seed raising mix to help with it being fine and with small seeds is sand. So I just use children's play sand in big bags, and you just incorporate it into your soil that you're going to use and mix it about. And the other ingredient that I find really useful is perlite. Perlite or vermiculite, a type of material that is really great, again, for moisture retention and for keeping the soil really fluffy. And I think adding these components actually helps to stretch out your soil growing medium, so you get more bang for your buck. So I've soaked this in a little bit of water because otherwise perlite can be quite dry and the dust can be a bit irritating if you breathe it in. So mix that in as well. Now, if you are intending on keeping your seeds that you'd grown in the seed raising mix in their containers for quite a while, at this point I would add a couple of handfuls of homegrown compost that's quite fine, not big chunky compost, and that organic matter will actually help the seedlings grow on. So I've mixed that in all together, make sure it's well incorporated, and now I'm going to set up to grow into some seedling trays. So I've got my seedling tray and I've got some regular old punnets, and I'm just going to fill this, and what I'm going to do is not tap it down very hard, but I'm going to ensure that it's filled to the top of the container, because that'll actually settle in as the seeds progress in their growing and as you water it over time, and that gives it lots of the growing medium to grow in. So I'll just do a couple of these, make sure it's well incorporated, and there we go. So I'm going to use a couple of different seedling pots to grow in, because you can really use whatever you got lying around. I was going to use these shallow trays for small seed, and I was going to use these larger taller pots for larger seeds which have bigger roots. So I'll fill them while I'm here, ready to go. Okay, so let's sow the smaller, finer seeds first. So I've got some lettuce seed. This one's called Marvel of 4 Seasons. It's quite a dark lettuce seed, and as you can see, it's quite fine. This would be really fiddly if I wanted to grow individual seeds, which you might choose to do for things like maybe particular tomato varieties and that sort of stuff. But for this fine leafed lettuce that I've got a lot of, and I know I can separate out quite easily later, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle them over the surface of these shallower containers. So I'm popping in the seeds and just trying to vaguely to evenly distribute them across the surface, and it's not much more than a pinch of seeds each, and that's actually going to end up being probably somewhere around 40 seeds per small punnet. So it's not very much seeds at all, and they're going to have enough room to grow. Now I've sprinkled them on the surface. They're quite vulnerable to drying out if they're like that. So I'm just going to get a handful of my growing mix, or maybe even just a straight up handful of sand by itself, and I'm going to sprinkle that to cover those very fine seeds. And then, most importantly, I'm going to label them so I don't forget what they are, and maybe even the date that I grew them on. So lettuce 4 seasons. In it goes, just a paddle pop stick, and I find that a permanent marker works best, or a pencil, for keeping the label on and not losing it in all types of seasons. Okay, so that's the quite fine lettuce seed that's done. Then I've got these bigger pots, and in these I'm going to grow some pea seeds. So what have I got here? Snow peas. Everyone loves snow peas. You can plant snow peas straight into the garden, but if you want to start germinating them indoors or in your greenhouse, growing them in quite deeper pots is the way to go, because snow peas have quite long, robust roots, and this will allow them space to grow. So I've got these round tall containers full of the medium, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the seed on top, and I think I'm going to space them out to only 4 seeds in one pot, and I'm going to push them down to just about below my nail, so about twice the size of the seed. That's partially because this growing medium is so fluffy, it'll compact a little bit, but also because these seeds are quite strong and they'll be able to push through the surface when they germinate. And then I'm just going to brush over the seed raising mix on top. So there's 4 in there. I'm going to repeat that again, like that. 3, 4, evenly spaced, so when it comes to separating them out to plant in my garden, it's easy to do. And again, just brush over. So they were snow peas, so I can write as much details as I want on my labels, but ensuring that each pot is labeled so I don't lose the information. Then most importantly, don't draw on yourself, and right at the end we're going to water them in just with plain water, but as the season progresses you might want to water them with a like a fertilizer solution like wormweed or sea salt, seaweed solution, that sort of thing. So particularly for the smaller seeds, I'd make sure I don't use quite a heavy stream of water on them, but as you can see already, that seed raising mix has settled quite far into the container. That's totally fine, there's still lots of soil in there, but that's why we filled it so far to the top at the start. Anyway, so that's planting fine seed and heavier seed or larger seed, ready to grow up for planting out into your garden.